What's up? What's up? We are live. It's been a little bit. Very, very important day today. And I've been waiting for this day for a long time. It's finally here. And I want to help you guys make some sense of it and explain what it means and what it's all about. All right. Today should be the Bitcoin halving day. Right. So, what's the Bitcoin halving? What does it mean? Let's get into it. How can we learn about it? All right. So we're going to get back to this in a minute. But really, what Bitcoin halving is, it's all about supply and demand, right? And we all understand the concepts of supply and demand. Since we were kids, we understand, right? Very simple, right? If there's a demand for anything and the supply is constant and the demand is constant, then the price stays the same, right? If there's a demand for something and the supply drops, price goes up, right? The demand hasn't changed. There's less of something, price goes up. And it works the opposite, right? If there's a demand for something and the supply goes up, price goes down, okay? So that's kind of what we're talking about. So what are some examples, all right, that we can reflect on supply and demand and what it really means? So here's a perfect example right here, all right, actually. I'm a Charmin guy. We all have opinions on our favorite toilet paper. All right. I'm a Charmin guy. Comment below what your favorite toilet paper is because we all have opinions. All right. So in 2019, if you were like, Dave, I can sell you a futures contract on the future price of toilet paper, I would laugh. I don't even think that's something you could have bought. It never would have occurred to me to even think like that, right? To make a bet on the future price of toilet paper. But what happened in 2020? Think about what happened in 2020. And the supply chains got totally interrupted. And if you remember, there was a toilet paper shortage, right? Did the demand for toilet paper decrease? No, I would argue it increased because we all sat at home all day, eating junk food, drinking alcohol, watching Netflix, which wreaked havoc on our bodies, right? So my precious Charmin was impossible to find. Okay, so I don't know. What was Charmin in 2019? 50 cents a roll. Okay. What would I have paid in 2020 if I could find it? $1, $2 a roll? I don't know. I paid a lot of money for inferior toilet paper because it was all I could find. So there's a perfect scenario that we all live through of what happens when demand, supply, equilibrium, price remains the same. All of a sudden you remove supply, price goes through the roof, right? Perfect example. All right, what's another example? I always have these conversations with friends about the zombie apocalypse, right? If you're investing for the zombie apocalypse, that is not a good investing strategy. I mean, it's going to happen, right? But they're like, Dave, what is gold going to be worth? What is Bitcoin going to be worth in the zombie apocalypse? Gold is better. Well, I would argue in the zombie apocalypse, if that's what you want to invest in, there's two things you should be buying right now: cigarettes and nips. Okay, I think cigarettes and nips will be the currency du jour of the zombie apocalypse. Why? Because what is the demand right now for cigarettes and alcohol? People smoke, people drink. Take away the supply, put us in a high stress situation. What happens to the value of those cigarettes and the value of that alcohol? Through the roof. Okay, what's a pack of Newports right now? $12, right? Put us in a zombie apocalypse. I would argue that pack of Newports you could trade probably for a working vehicle. You could probably trade that for a gun that works with bullets. You could probably trade that pack of Newports in a zombie apocalypse for a week's worth of food for your family. You could trade it for shelter. Same thing with the nips. So it all comes down to supply and demand, right? Right now, there's enough cigarette and alcohol supply to meet the current demand. Put us in an apocalypse, supply goes away, demand stays constant, it increases, the value of those things increase exponentially, all right? Another example. Now, what's different about Bitcoin, okay, and that's where the halving comes into play, is the supply is fixed. Every other investment on earth, right, getting into like serious investments now outside of toilet paper and cigarettes, right, looking at gold and real estate and oil, different examples like that. Demand, right? As demand increases, supply will always find a way, okay? Let's look at gold, all right? Do you know that, gold, how much gold is there on planet Earth, right? Nobody knows. It's unknown. But why do you think Elon is running SpaceX? Why do you think Jeff Bezos is building rockets, right? The money is in outer space. How much gold is on asteroids? How many rare earth metals are on asteroids, right? So right now the price is high, but it's not high enough to send a rocket to go get it. But if gold's right now is what, 2,300 an ounce? If gold goes to $10,000 an ounce, they will find a way to get more supply. There's some gold on Earth that's probably difficult to get. So once they get that supply, the price of gold will come down because we can always make more supply to meet demand. Okay. I'll give you another perfect example. Oil. All right. I remember hearing about these shale oil fields, 15 years ago, North Dakota, like maybe Alberta or Winnipeg, right? Parts of Canada. And it's this oil, it's in the ground. It's like a mucky tar. Wasn't worth getting when oil was $30 a barrel. Oil goes to $100 a barrel. North Dakota has a building boom. Everybody's coming there getting the oil to increase the supply to meet demand. So any other asset you invest in, supply can always increase to meet demand, right? I'll give you another example. I'm a real estate broker. I sell real estate. Real estate, there is a finite amount of real estate, right? But you can always build more. I should really say there's a finite amount of land, and you can always build more real estate on top of that land. Some of the fastest growing areas in America, Austin, Texas, Houston, Texas, Nashville, right? Huge building booms, right? And you look right here at home at Fall River, you would say, oh, well, those places are full of land. They can build anything they want. It is worth more in the Northeast because there's less land. But what are we doing in Fall River? To meet demand, we're tearing down a highway, right? We are literally ripping out a highway in our waterfront to create 19 acres of developable land to meet the demand for real estate by increasing the supply. It doesn't mean real estate's worthless. It just is an example of how something with such a finite supply and a high demand, there's always a way to make more supply, right? And that's what's so amazing about Bitcoin. And then I'll just give you one more example, right? And everything we talk about on this channel, it's not to get rich, okay? This is not a get rich quick channel. We don't talk about these things to get rich. And when I was a kid, I learned a very valuable lesson about supply and demand because I thought I was going to get rich, all right? And I think we all did. So this is going back 35 years, all right? I used to buy these baseball cards, man. My mother, every Christmas, would get me the cards. I thought I was going to be rich. I was going to be a millionaire. Little did I know they were printing billions of these things a day, literally billions a day. So there's a perfect example, supply finds a way, right? The demand, the baseball card market took off. Here I was, little David thinking, so it is what it is, right? So those are all the different ways that supply can always be increased to meet demand. But then along comes this asset called Bitcoin, and that's what brings us to today and why today is so important. Because Bitcoin is an asset whose supply schedule is fixed. There is no way to create more Bitcoin other than what is written into the code. That is it. There's no way. All right. If you try to change that, it's not Bitcoin. It just spins off. If you look on Robinhood, there's Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV. Those aren't Bitcoin. They used to be Bitcoin. Then they spun off because people changed it. There is no way to create more Bitcoin. And that's where we are today, the 2024 Halving. So when Bitcoin started 2009, there wasn't a lot of use. The network was small, needed to grow. There weren't a lot of computers running the network. So 50 Bitcoin was every block. So basically every 10 minutes, the ledger updates with the block, right? It's just an entry on the ledger. So the reward was 50 Bitcoin. Bitcoin wasn't worth anything. 4 years in 2012, it cut in half to 25 Bitcoin. 4 years later in 2020, it cut in half to 12 and a half. Sorry, got distracted. 12 and a half. And then in 2020, it cut in half again to 6.25, which is where we are today. In 2024, today, it's going to cut in half again to 3.125. So basically right now, at this moment, there's 900 Bitcoin a day, quote unquote, that are mined. Tomorrow, 450. So what does that mean? Is the price going to explode overnight? And here's a little example, it kind of shows you. So there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin, and 20 million of them have been mined. In the year 2140, through this halving schedule, it's amazing when you look at it. It goes down to the very last little piece of a Bitcoin. So the last million will take 116 years. So what does that mean? Is the price going to double tonight? No. Again, we don't invest to get rich, right? We invest to avoid being poor. So what that means is we can recognize in our lives when there are things that we can look at and evaluate and maybe invest in, making your own decisions, that we don't do it to get rich overnight, but we do it to avoid being poor. So we know if we keep our money in dollars and what the government's doing with our money and how they're printing it and how their inflation is out of control, it's a losing game. You can play that game if you want, and that's fine. Do what you want to do. But then we can find other avenues where we can invest. And again, it's about avoiding being poor. And if you do those things enough over time as a byproduct of those habits, you become rich. It's just how it works, right? You want to lose weight, don't focus on losing 50 pounds. Focus on changing what you eat, going to the gym, changing your habits. And as a byproduct of those activities, you will lose weight. And that's the same thing. So Bitcoin is not going to double overnight. But I can tell you, like the examples I showed you, demand remains constant or increases, supply decreases, price only goes one way. It's been proven time and time again throughout history. And this is the one asset in the history of the world that has a fixed supply schedule where the supply can never, ever increase to meet demand. That's the mind-blowing part about the Bitcoin movement. That's the thing about this whole asset that blows my mind. And that's what's so intriguing to me. And again, not investing to get rich. I'm just doing what I do to avoid being poor. And that's my message to all of you. And I hope that, take a look at what's happening around you. We talk about these things on the channel all the time. It's going to be on the news today. I'm sure some news station will cover it and mess it up. You got the facts here first. If you have questions, comment below. Let's get a conversation going. All right. And especially your toilet paper. But enjoy the day. Have fun. And avoid being poor. All right. That's the mission. All right, guys. Bitcoin Halving 2024. We out.